Hey subscribers, new viewers, everybody. This is High Tier Normie Saga. I'm really pleased to be able to bring you a new video today. Haven't uploaded in a couple days, so really pleased to get back on that train and give you something interesting. So, what do we call it when, in a society, what do we call it when a person refuses to believe the core myths of society? Like, what does it sometimes indicate to, like, psychologists, for example, when someone rejects the core beliefs of a society? Now, in the instance of the black pill, these core beliefs might include things like women care primarily about personality, men care about looks and sex, and women care about the finer things, in the romantic world. And if you are even searching the term black pill in a serious way, you reject this. And so what is it called when you're countering what society says? Well, let's look at like the etymology of that, right? So what runs counter to something? That brings up the prefix anti. And then what is society? It's a social body. So you're acting anti-socially in many, many, many people's eyes, just by not believing. It's like back in the day, you could get burned at the stake for having a different religious belief, and that was thought to be justice. Nobody back then, who is really in the center of what was normal was going to contradict that. Nobody was going to say, hey, you shouldn't burn him at the stake. They just made a mistake. They just were having an open mind. They were just open to experience. No. That was thought of as antisocial back then, and this is thought of as antisocial now. The very fact that you're looking at the black pill, that you're looking at women in a cynical way, which is what you're doing, you are viewed as having antisocial personality features, okay? And so, that being said, what does a person in that position in society attract? Okay, so what a person in that position tends to attract a lot of the time is going to be women with borderline personality features or full-blown borderline personality disorder. Okay, so let's go back to my, first girlfriend. Okay, Justine Ping is what I've given her the moniker of. Kind of rhymes with names out there. And so that's what I've given her the name of. And, back in high school, like I mentioned in that, Asian jock video that I made, if it gets taken down, then you don't have context, but, deal with it. So, at that time, she came to me. Why? Because I stood out in like an antisocial way. I made a rap diss implicating her best friend, her Asian friend zone friend, got humiliated essentially in this diss, and I was the culprit. And so who did she go right to? She went to me, okay? And so maybe that's not the best sign in hindsight about this person's character, and maybe I just completely overlooked that, And so I overlooked that. Needless to say, the relationship devolved over that year into arguing, breaking up frequently, infidelity on, my mistake in terms of infidelity. I was a perpetrator of that. And so, eventually the relationship disintegrated. And, what happened in my second longer term relationship, okay? So this was actually for 6 years, okay? And this girl is still bitter to me to this day, because when it comes to borderline personality features, I wouldn't say any of these girls have full-blown borderline personality disorder, because if they did, I probably wouldn't even be sitting here able to give you a story right now. But they had features that are commonly associated with that pathology. And this girl, she would push me to the edge. And, I got some I had some issues in my life at that time, and she would use them against me. And, that's crazy, because I was trying to be supportive. But, sort of my fall from grace temporarily of status during that time, that was what was really the final straw to that person. And the attraction was, reduced. And so, I suffered the consequences. False accusations, letters to my family about what a horrible person I allegedly am, and just drama. And hitting me up a year after our breakup, begging for $1,000 to pay the rent. Get the fuck out of here, And so, second instance of borderline personality features. What happens to my next girl after that? Okay, so this is, just a couple years ago, I entered into a relationship with a girl, and she's from the Caribbean, and, I like a little bit of, reggae music and dance hall, and I'm going on this first date with her, and I play a little bit of Vibes Cartel, and I'm like, hey, do you know who Vibes Cartel is? And she's like, oh my God, I didn't know that nobody knew who Vibes Cartel was. That's so amazing that you knew that. And I'm like, wow, we're hitting it off, And I don't discriminate color-wise. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not really into the Asian girls anymore. Not because she did me dirty, although she did in high school, but just because, I don't know, I want to have strong kids. I don't want to have, an incel kid, okay? So, and who knows, I might have boys. So I want to have, maybe a mix of black and white, or a white kid, or, Latino and white, or whatever you want to call it. So basically, I like black chicks. They're one of my types. And this girl's from the Caribbean. She's super cool, super laid back. That's always how borderline personality feature presenting women sneak into your to your habitat. And so she was doing that. She was being real understanding, real deep, insightful. And I don't doubt the depth, because these people have extreme emotional depth. That's part of, by definition, having these features, And so she has just extreme depth, and I'm like drawn to that, and there's an extreme spark, and it's just like, we have so much fun, But over time, I take her to all these places she's never been, all these experiences she'd never have, all these people she'd never meet, all these things that I just leveled her up. Like, she's going up. This is just, a party for her. But then eventually, I don't know what it is, but the arguing creeps in. And I've always been just anti-arguing with women. I think it's like a weakness, And it's a weakness that they're able to draw out of me involuntarily, And so it's a weakness. And, just, she would get mad when I would masturbate, okay? And same with the previous one, with the false accusations. She would get mad when I would masturbate in the bathroom. She would bang on the bathroom door. You're taking a really long shower right now. What are you doing? And she'd pick the lock, and she'd see that I had an erection, and she would get furious, and she would storm out, and she wouldn't talk to me for a day. This is the level of insecurity. Let the man masturbate, you know what I mean? And so anyways, and that's some foreshadowing for, what goes on in the present day, And so this girl, basically, she just drives me to the edge every day, And so, she's just, picking me apart psychologically, and I'm like, dude, I'm low neuroticism, I'm not tripping, but, you're just interfering with my shit. And so, eventually, I just, I don't have the heart to cut her loose, right? I don't have the heart, and, I don't like confrontation that much, So I'm like, and that's my fucking mistake, And so I cheat on her, I open up Bumble, and I start I post the best profile pics I got, you know, and I'm a 6.5 or a 7. You know, I'm not a Chad, but at the same time, you know, I'm getting results from, you know, whatever women like stumble their way into that second tier of attraction on these apps. And so, you know, I may be getting like 8 matches a day, something like that. And like, I'm going on like a date every single day in fucking secret, you know? And pretty much every time I go on a date, the personality kicks in, and my one-on-one personality with a female, very low in inhib, very, very effective in what I'm trying to do. And so, you know, I hook up with a few women during this time period, and basically this one day, I'm chilling with her with my girl at that time in the hot tub, and I'm chilling with her, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm gonna go get some more stuff to drink, and I drive off, but I immediately return because my Bumble date is on her way, and she pulls up in the parking lot, and you know, I'm a little inebriated at that moment. This is back when I was really doing that, and you know, I tell her, you know, hey, we got to be secretive because I'm in a relationship. My girl is in the hot tub right now. And she's like, what? And she blasts me out on Snapchat, dude. She blasts me out on Snapchat, and she's like, you know, she's half black, and she's like, this N-word is, you know, deceiving me, and he has a girlfriend. Can you believe that? But then, you know what? After she does that, I explain a little bit more, and she stays, you know? And so we come up to my place, to me and my girl's place, and you know, she's sitting on the couch, and I'm sitting on the couch with her. I'm, you know, kind of trying to kiss her, and she's like, I still can't get past this fact that you have a girlfriend. And I'm like, hey, you know what? My old complex, I can just reach over the pool door and just pop the door. Let's just go hang out at that hot tub. Nobody will know we're there. And she's like, okay, fine. I'll drive us. And so, you know, I open my door, start walking down the hallway. Right at that moment, my girlfriend is walking down the hallway, way on the other side of the hallway, like 200 feet away. And she's like, hi, Tier Normie. And I'm like, oh. And I start banging on the elevator button, you know, and the elevator slowly opens. And by the time that I prime myself into the elevator, 111, lobby, just pounding this button. She sticks her fingers through the door, bro. And, you know, and the door busts open. And she's like, yo. And, you know, she cusses the girl out. You know, my girl at the time, like I said about tomboys, she was a little bit of a tomboy. And she was full black, you know, and this girl was just half black. So she had not as much of that, you know, whatever you want to call it in her. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't going to expose her for knowing, you know, she knew, but like, that wasn't my place to like make a confrontation between these two women. So, you know, I was like, girlfriend, stop, you know, and I hug onto her, cling onto her, and she's like writhing away, and I'm like, stop. And, you know, then eventually that, you know, mixed girl runs away. You know, she runs out of the apartment complex and probably smashes on the gas like, oh my God, I knew I shouldn't have got involved with this fucking dude. And, you know, I'm totally beat red. I feel so guilty. And then, but at the same time, I feel kind of justified because, you know, my girl has been a prick to me. Like, she's been mean to me all the time for no good reason. And I'm like, stop, dude. But anyways, we go back up to the unit, and, you know, she shuts the door, and she looks like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Michael Myers. Like, I'm sort of like, whoa, what's going to happen? And, you know, she grabs me, and she pulls out a freaking curtain rod from the curtain, and she starts hitting me with this metal implement. And I'm running away, and like, you know, I know how the law works when it comes to men and women. and I know how it's unfair. And I'm like, oh my God, and she's hitting me with this shit. And I'm like, stop making a disturbance. I don't want this to become a thing. And like, she's scratching me, scratching my chest, scratching my throat with her freaking claws. And I'm like, oh my God, just please stop, And she's hit me with this weapon. She puts it down. And then, I fall onto the bed and I'm kind of laughing because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm kind of laughing just out of like exasperation because I'm like, oh my God, like, don't do this to yourself, dude. And like, she starts like choking me and like pushing her fist into my Adam's apple. And I'm like, stop. And then like, she keeps fucking attacking me, and then I retreat into the living room and she picks up the curtain rod again and she comes at me. And at this time, I'm just fed up. And so I just sock her a good one, just a 1-2. I'm like, pop, pop. And it doesn't even faze her. And this is the borderline really coming to fruition. And I'm like, oh my God. And so I stumble out of my apartment and I fall into the hallway because I'm so tired from this crazy confrontation. And I'm inebriated too. And, she storms out and it was just insane, And then, but suffice to say, that was my third experience with borderline personality features, coming from another person. And then, my current relationship, she knows my whole background, but, just like all of those other women, her father is either emotionally absent or literally absent. And so I'm like, okay, here we go again. Here's the type that I tend to attract. And, I'm like, just suffice to say to this day, I'm not 100% sure where this is going. And, as a person who has traits that are compatible with these type of people, I just need to understand like how I can change to have the outer reflection of my inner life be more harmonious with my needs. I don't need somebody who's emotionally unstable. I want to have a supportive relationship where it's about trust. And I know that like, hey, I don't need to nag you. I don't need to be aloof. I don't need to, threaten infidelity. I don't need to do any of these things in order to keep you happy, in order to stop you from like going into these, silent treatments all the time. I just don't need that in my life. And so, at the end of the day, like I'm just a person who is trying to become the type of person who attracts what I really need, the type of person who will meet my needs. And the current relationship that I'm in, I've never taken a relationship this seriously before. And I've talked about this with her ad nauseum and about my flaws and about her flaws and about working as a team. And God, I just hope it works.